Here's everything that happened over the last 24 hours in Iran from an Iranian. To start off, Iran has now reached over 300 hours of internet outage. Before it was reported that that would be fixed by Friday, but now Iranian officials are stating that there's no timeline for when it will be fixed. Just insane. Moving on, there's now reports and interviews being released of family members who had their family members alive and that hit under dead bodies for days to be undetected. There's stories of protesters that were trying to help other protesters who were injured and got killed in the process because they were trying to help injured protesters. And just a shocking one came out that there was a protester who hid in one of the body bags just to get to safety. Absolutely crazy stuff. Now, President Donald Trump has said a lot of things over the last 24 hours. He started off on Tuesday afternoon saying that if Iran continues to threaten or takes an assassination attempt on him, that he will wipe them off the earth. He also said that he's pressing his advisors from what he described as a decisive strike on Iran. And then Israeli officials raised the alert level over a possible strike on Iran from the US. However, today at the World Economic Conference, President Donald Trump said that he hopes that there will be no further violence on Iran. Now, what that means is unsure. I think he's hoping for no further violence, but if they do continue to be violent, there will be strikes. He also noted that the Middle East has been at more peace since his strikes on Iran last year. He also warned Iran that they need to stop with anything nuclear. And Republicans are now backing a strike on Iran. And here's a direct quote from U.S. Republican Representative Joe Wilson. He said the courageous Iranians are being slaughtered in the streets, homes, and hospitals by tens of thousands. The deranged terrorist regime that pledges death to America and Israel must be stopped. But then on Wednesday, we heard from the U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, and he said some comments that the Iranians don't necessarily love. He said, well, we're not negotiating with them now, but we've had contact with them. And then asked whether the killings have stopped or not. He said, well, it's hard to tell. I mean, there's been plenty of killings, more than necessary, that's for sure. However, he believed that an agreement with Iran ought to happen. And that sent a lot of Iranians in a frenzy and got them rightfully upset. And then we heard from U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, who's been on the Iranian people's side. And he went to X and made it clear that the Ayatollah will not change his ways. And there's no prospective deal that can happen between them. Meanwhile, human rights groups HRANA is reporting that at least 313 prisoners were hung and executed. And just a few hours ago from when I'm making this video, another protester was charged with the death penalty for the charge of waging war against God. I don't know if they're referring to themselves as God now at this point. And there's some terrible stories coming out around Iranians. One specific one is an adult Iranian seeing a 16-year-old injured during the protest. But then she said she had been hit with pellets from the waist down and came back again the next night, which is just insane bravery and courage from the young lady. He also described symptoms he experienced, saying it smelled different and my skin felt burnt. And there's been a lot of reports of the government using chemicals during the protests. And a final note, the EU is now taking a vote on whether or not to invite Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi to come speak in front of the EU Parliament, which would be a very, very big step. However, if the vote does not go through, they will only be referring to him as the opposition and will not be hearing from him. There's a lot more to cover than in this 3-minute video, but for now, peace.